There's just something about a no-frills classic leather work boot. It's a charming classic piece of equipment that seems to scream blue-collar hard work. Unfortunately, this is a style that has been largely ignored by the barefoot shoe industry, at least until recently. Barefoot and Jim Green seem to be the first two companies to notice this hole in the industry and have filled it with two fantastic offerings, the Bruin by Barefoot and the Jim Green Barefoot African Ranger. These two boots have pleasantly surprised us with the quality of materials and the classic work boot features that provide longevity, ruggedness, and comfort. In this video, we'll discuss what they have in common, how they're different, and hopefully help you decide which is for you as we set these boots to go toe-to-toe. Hey folks, I'm glad you're here. My name is Chris, and this is the Sons of Sever YouTube channel where there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad gear. Obviously, today we are talking about two very unique boots in the barefoot shoe industry, and that is the Barefoot Bruin and the Jim Green Barefoot African Ranger. The reason why these are unique is while you will find other barefoot boots like the Lems Boulder Summit and Boulder Grip and other Boulder boots from Lems that we love, a couple others in the industry as well, there are leather boots out there. But these are like very classic, hard, rugged style leather work boots. There are some features that they have that kind of set them apart from the rest of the industry that we're going to talk about. But honestly, there is not a third brand that makes a barefoot boot like this that we've come across so far, at least. If there is one that you know, let us know down in the comment section. That's actually how we came across the Jim Green in the first place. After we did the review of the Bruin, I think that was close to after the Rose Anvil video came out of the announcement of the Barefoot African Ranger, and people flooded our comment section with requests to see this specific shoe featured on the channel. We were also asked to put these two boots head to head against each other, so obviously give the people what they want. Again, we're gonna go through a handful of the features to compare these guys to each other, and at the end of the video, we'll give our opinions on which one we like better and why. To start us off with our first category, I'm gonna send things over to Eric.
So when it comes to the way that the boots were built and their durability, they were built slightly differently. But I think the thing that we need to take away from this is that both of them are unique in the barefoot shoe industry, and that these are boots that have been built with repairability in mind. You can take them to a cobbler and those soles can be replaced when you need to do that. And both of these were built with durability in mind, above weight and above flexibility, and that makes them unique and makes them really cool. I do think that the Jim Green does edge out the Barefoot just a little bit here in the durability and construction arena, and that's because the Jim Green has an actual toe cap. So this is double the material on the toe cap here. And when Rose Anvil cut into the Bruin, he found that this wasn't a real toe cap. So it's just the single piece of material, not quite as durable as with the Jim Green. And then some other things too when it comes to like the lacing system. This is a completely separate piece of leather. So if one of these eyelets were ever to break, then you could go and you could replace it with another piece of leather and you'd be good to go. Now, this is highly improbable because you have two pieces of leather that would have to break for one of these eyelets, but if it was broken, then that would be a much harder fix, making these, I think, just a little bit less durable than the Jim Greens. Obviously, they're both made to last, and again, they can both be repaired, and that's one thing that is so great about both of them.
The first thing that I'm going to be talking about is weight. These boys are both going to come in a bit heftier than some of your other barefoot boots. Weight definitely wasn't something that these companies kept in mind when it came to minimalist characteristics. I think you can't really shave that much off when it comes to working with these more rugged materials, but the Jim Green African Ranger comes in at 1 pound 8.6 ounces, while the Barefoot Bruin comes in at 1 pound, 8.2 ounces. In my opinion, you're splitting hairs when it comes to the weight between the two of them. Let's compare them to some other boots. This is the Saguaro Brave 3. It has not been featured on the channel with its own review yet, but that is coming, and it comes in at just over a pound. This is the aforementioned Lems Boulder Summit, and it comes in at 14.8 ounces. So our two example boots are coming in quite a bit lighter. But again, when you're working with very high quality leathers and some really dense, rugged rubber outsoles, you're gonna expect that weight to come along for the ride. While I do notice that weight when I am working or hiking in these, I would say that it's not too much or anything like that. I don't feel like they're slowing me down or causing me extra leg fatigue or anything like that, but they are noticeably heavier on your feet for sure.
So the next category that we're going to talk about is the comfort of the two boots, and I am going to have to give it to the Gym Green. I do think that this is overall the more comfortable boot. This one came out of the box very comfortable, and I talked about that in our video that reviews this boot. And the padded cuff here is very nice. The veg tan insole that you have really molds to your foot. So out of the box, it was really nice to wear, and then it just gets better and better over time. So when it came to the Barefoot Bruin, this thing came out of the box much more uncomfortable. It was a lot stiffer. The leather definitely needed some time to soften up and break in. It's not as flexible either. This is requiring a lot more effort to get it to do that than with the Gym Green. And then another thing that I noticed with it that was uncomfortable was all this extra material at the tongue would kind of bunch up on top of your foot, and you could really feel it. Again, that leather has softened up and it has gotten better over time, but right out of the box, this one took some getting used to, and there are still some things about it that aren't super comfortable, whereas the Gym Green has just been getting better and better. The back part of the shoe that you can see there that would be right on your heel, that piece of leather is actually pretty rough, and if I'm wearing these too long or using them a little bit more athletically, like on a hike or something, then that rough leather rubs on my heel and almost gives me a blister. So we do find the Gym Greens to be more comfortable overall.
The next aspect of these boots that I'm going to talk about is the traction patterns. While I think the traction patterns on both of these shoes do pretty well, I'm going to give the advantage here to the Barefoot African Ranger. And the reason why is because specifically on icy surfaces, whether it was ice on the trail in the mountains or frost over on the driveways that I walk up and down at work all day as a delivery driver, somehow these boots almost feel sticky to those surfaces. Obviously, if you push yourself hard enough, you're going to slide on ice no matter what you're wearing, unless you're wearing like spikes or something like that. But these really did seem to almost stick to those surfaces a bit more. I will say, to the benefit of the almost gimmicky bear claw traction pattern on the bottom of the Bruin, they work just as well as the African Rangers on gravel and dry concrete and all of the other surfaces. The only advantage I'm giving to the Gym Green, ironically, considering it's the African Ranger boot, is on ice. Definitely not something that it was purpose built for, but I think the traction patterns on both of these shoes perform well. Again, just giving a little advantage to the Gym Green with its performance when it came to slippery surfaces. Before I pass things back over to Eric for the next category, I want to talk about an affiliate, and that is Creepers toe socks. We love Creepers. You can't see them all the time in our videos because they're covered by our pants and our shoes, obviously, but We wear them almost constantly. Every shot of me in the mountains with the African Ranger specifically, I am wearing Creepers toe socks. We found that they perform well in all conditions, and they were our favorite sock when it came to a 7 sock comparison that we did. You can click this card to head over to that video. If you're interested in checking out Creepers, head down to the link in the description. There's also a discount code down there that you can use if you decide to buy some and you want to save some money. The next thing I want to talk about is our Patreon page. We just started our Patreon page. We have some free content that is up for you guys to go and view, but we would love it if you would subscribe to our exclusive content that we are also posting on there. It is only $1 a month. The exclusive content that we're posting is similar to some of the free samples that we've put on there. It's really behind the scenes. What shoes am I wearing today at work? Showing you some of the behind the scenes of the unboxing videos that I make for Instagram. Also showing you the process of taking some of the B-roll shots. That way you'll be able to see a lot of these shoes in work and in progress before the final review comes out. If you're interested in checking out that Patreon page, head down to the link in the description. And again, it is only $1 a month to get access to that exclusive content. We would very much appreciate it. Now I'm gonna pass things back over to Eric so that he can talk to you about the next category of comparison.
All right, so the next thing that we're going to talk about is stack height on the two boots, and this is actually going to be a pretty interesting conversation. The Barefoot Bruin comes in at 15 millimeters, and the Gym Green African Ranger comes in at 13.5, but Chris swears that the Bruin has more ground feel than the Gym Green does, and I'm not so sure that I completely agree with that, but I think there might be something to it just based off of looking at the two. So if you look at the two outsoles side by side, the Bruins is thinner than the Gym Greens. Now when you look at the midsole, the Bruins is thicker than the Gym Green, so it all kind of equals out. But I think that the reason why he might be getting a little bit more ground feel is just because that rubber outsole on the Bruin is thinner than the Gym Greens. Now for me, I feel like the Gym Green has a little bit more ground feel, and that's just based off of an experience that I had the very first time that I put on a minimalist shoe. So my first barefoot shoe was a Xero Prio. I was out walking around in it. I went to cross the street, and as you're crossing the street, there's those yellow metal plates that have the little bumps in them, and for the first time in my life I walked over those and felt those, and I totally remember that happening and being like, oh my goodness, like I can feel everything underneath my feet. So that's always kind of my benchmark for ground feel, and in comparing the two of these, I can feel those bumps when I'm wearing the Gym Green, and I can't feel them when I'm wearing the Barefoot. Now that might have something to do with the flexibility. I think that the Barefoot has a much more dense rubber, even though it's thinner. It's quite a bit more dense feeling when you compare the two. And the Gym Greens, while it might be a thicker rubber, isn't quite as dense, so it flexes just a little bit better. And that might be why I'm feeling what I am. But both of these do have good ground feeling for a boot. Obviously around 13.5 to 15 millimeters of stack height, you're not going to feel everything underneath your feet, but with both of these we feel like they have enough ground feel, especially for a boot.
The next category of comparison I'm going to talk about when it comes to these boots is the width of the toe boxes. I'm going to roll in some B-roll here so you can get some close-up shots of those toe boxes right next to each other. You should be able to tell, at least I can, that the Barefoot Bruin is a little bit wider. Eric and I are pretty sure that the Bruin's toe box is the widest toe box that we've worked with so far. We get a lot of comments from people saying that this shoe wasn't wide enough or that shoe wasn't wide enough. We found that both of these boots had ample space for our toes to splay out, especially if we are wearing toe socks. Barefoot actually makes their own toe socks that will be featured in our next toe sock roundup video, so keep an eye out for that. But yeah, I would say the Gym Green has more volume overall, and it's wider from heel up to the toe box, but the Bruin, while a little bit more tapered back towards the heel, definitely has a wider toe box. And honestly, personally, that's why I find that I like the fit of the Bruin better. It just seems to contour to my foot very nicely, and then I get that nice big wide splaying toe box at the end.
All right, the next one should be pretty short to talk about. I'm going to talk about the sizing, and the Bruins seem to run just a little bit small. So normally I get a US men's size 9, and that's what I got with them, and it's not hard for me to shove my toes all the way to the front of those boots. I definitely think you can go a half size up. That's what I have for my Barefoot Ursas. I went with a 9.5, and those fit perfectly. So when it comes to the Bruins, definitely consider a half size up. The gym greens seem to fit more true to size.
The last category of comparison that I'm going to talk to you about is actually going to be pretty short, and then I'm going to give you my final thoughts on which one I like better. But the Barefoot Bruin comes in at $250. Kind of steep. I think it's actually the most expensive barefoot shoe that we've ever reviewed, while the gym green Barefoot African Ranger comes in at $189. So there's a bit of a marked difference there. But when it comes to which one I like better, which one feels better on my feet, which one am I probably going to reach for more often than the other, it's going to be the Barefoot Bruin for me. One of the reasons I will give you is that I actually really like high ankles when it comes to boots, especially, definitely boots, and when it comes to shoes in general. I know it's kind of goofy in the summer if you're wearing shorts and then you wear like a high top shoe of some kind. Some people can pull it off. I think I've got the calves for it personally, but I do also like low ankle shoes. One of my very favorite barefoot shoes is the Lems Primal Zen, and that is a low ankle shoe. But I really like high ankles, especially for boots. If I'm taking this out into snow or if I'm kicking up gravel and stuff, the high ankle is going to keep that stuff out of my shoe. And I also just think it looks cooler. It also has just as much, if not more, versatility, but I can wear these to church just like I can the gym greens. I think they both actually look very good in formal settings. My wife had me wear these for our family pictures, so that tells you her opinion on the Bruin. I have loved wearing these things at work. They make my feet feel so protected. One last thing I'll mention is just a little bit of thoughtfulness from Barefoot in something that I originally thought was a total failure of the boot, but ended up being one of my favorite features, and now I'm considering deliberately damaging the boot in order to get this. But a lot of you who have stuck with the channel for a while know my aversion to lace hooks, which both of these boots have. One of the lace hooks on the Bruin actually snapped off, but underneath each lace hook is an eyelet that is fully functional. So I'm actually tempted to snap off this one as well, just to make them even. So I can lace up to here, and then I can have the hooks up there. I can ignore the hooks if I want to, or use them, whatever I'm feeling at the moment. But I think that is very cleverly done. That's not a feature you get with the gym greens, although I don't think that these lace hooks are going to snap off. They seem to be made a little bit more sturdy. I still love this shoe. I 100% rock it at work. I could totally wear this casually. I think it kind of depends on the weather. I understand why a lot of the features were built in, like a low ankle. You're going to be wearing shorts in Africa, and if you're trekking through Africa, personally, I would still want a little higher ankle to keep stuff on the ground in Africa out of my shoe. But I think that the puff here, the padding, hugs your ankle pretty well to keep stuff out for the most part. Still love this boot. I just love the Bruin more. So that's it for me. I'm gonna send things over to Eric, and then he's gonna give you our outro for the video.
So when it comes to picking a winner of these two boots, I am going to give it to the Gym Green African Ranger, and that came down to the fact that it costs less. I think that it looks better. I think that it's more comfortable, at least in my experience it has been, and I think that it functions overall better than the Bruin does. Now, it's not blowing the Bruin out of the water by any means. These two boots are very similar, and they both provide a ton of value. The fact that they can be resold, the fact that they've been built with durability in mind, but they still have those barefoot qualities, is just awesome. But I think that the Gym Green does edge out the Bruin, in my opinion. I know Chris's opinion is different, and that's great. That doesn't always happen, but I think that it's good for your decision-making process to see two different trains of thoughts, two different situations and needs, and hopefully that's helped you to sort through all the information and decide which one would be best for you. All right, folks, thanks for the view. We really appreciate it. We hope that this information was helpful to you, especially if you've been looking at these two boots and trying to decide which one. Hopefully, we've helped you reach that decision today. We do have a bunch more of these planned out, but we would love to hear down in the comment section which shoes you want to see go toe-to-toe with each other. So leave us a comment, let us know which shoes you would want to see compared. And there are a bunch of different places that you can continue to follow along with us online. We now have a Patreon account that we're pretty excited about. That's new to us in 2024. It costs just $1 a month, and you'll be able to get exclusive content from us. You'll be able to see behind the scenes and more up-to-date posts about the gear that we're working with. We also have an Instagram account, so go and follow us there to see other posts, and we have a Strava account that we're really active on. Strava is really cool. It's this app that's like the social media for being outdoorsy and athletic and exercising. So if you follow us there, you can see the activities that we're up to. We always detail the gear that we're using on those activities, and we'd love to see the things that you're up to and the gear that you are using. So follow us on Strava. We'll continue to build up that community there. And as always, we will see you in the mountains.